Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I am going to try to share my screen. Okay, it seems like the screen sharing is working. So as Amber mentioned, I provide care to a vulnerable community at a federally qualified health center in central New Jersey that's associated with our medical school. Our community was pretty hard hit by the COVID pandemic. And even though we have never been closed, we've been open throughout this, and we are trying to provide in-person well-child visits to our youngest kids. Parents have been very afraid to come to the health center for care. So well-child visits have declined, but luckily we've been able to pivot really early to telehealth. And we've been able to support our families through the crisis through telehealth. So I've been providing telehealth visits for more than 2 months now, and I would like to share some of my experiences with you in terms of telehealth. So one of the things that I have been really grateful for during this time is the fact that telehealth has allowed me to connect with my families during this time of anxiety and isolation. Families have been very, very appreciative of this. The big smile on their faces when my face kind of pops up on their screen is kind of a testament to that. And actually looking at it from a different perspective, these interactions with my families have actually supported me as well. You know, during the peak of the crisis, a number of families that I spoke to before they hung up would say to me that they're praying for me, that they hope that there was a ring of protection around me, things like that, that really made me sort of, that helped me with my anxiety and kind of gave me a renewed sense of purpose during the crisis. So I really appreciated that. I've also really appreciated this unique opportunity to see my families in their homes. It sort of felt like I was a guest in their homes. It's been nice to see how they live. And also, some of the kids who may be during a visit in my office might have been a little bit shy or a little bit afraid, have been a lot more chatty during these telehealth visits. I think they're used to relating to their family or friends through FaceTime and other screen-based devices. And so this isn't unusual for them. And of course, they have the comfort of being in their own comfort zones at home. So I've really kind of enjoyed those interactions as well. And I've also enjoyed the fact that I've had more time and there's been more of a focus on health promotion during these telehealth visits, specifically in terms of addressing social and emotional health, behavior, and promoting positive parenting. And although I will admit that I had a lot of misgivings and apprehensions when we started with telehealth, because we had no training whatsoever. We were just kind of thrown in there and, told to just get started with telehealth, right? But the thing that really very soon I figured out that, we've been doing telehealth in terms of fielding phone calls from families at night and weekends and so on. And really having a telehealth platform augments what I can do during those interactions. The video helps and so on. I'm able to send families text messages, so a lot of different advantages to telehealth visits. And so to move on to the nitty-gritties of how we do telehealth visits at my health center. In terms of scheduling, we've been doing sick visits through telehealth visits, of course, but we've also been providing well-child visits for the older kids. And the other thing that we have done has been to reach out to our kids who have chronic conditions such as asthma, who've not had a visit in the past 6 months or so, and offering televisits to them proactively. We've done that for other chronic conditions as well, like obesity. It can be done for things like patients with developmental disabilities, anxiety, depression, and other such conditions. Starting the visits, our med techs actually make a phone call to the family and they talk them through how to accept the telehealth request, which we use a platform where we're texting those telehealth requests to the family's cell phones. And so they're able to accept it on that. And then the med techs do what they've always done at well-child visits at our health center, which is screenings, whether they're mental health screens like the PHQ-2 or screening for social determinants of health. We use the Prepare tool in our health center. And I feel like this has been so much more important during this time because we've identified a lot of families with needs, and we've been able to refer them to resources to help address those needs. When it comes to history taking on a telehealth visit, it really hasn't been that different from a regular visit, but the one thing that I do try to do right at the beginning of the visit is to ensure privacy. So I'll ask the parent, do we have some privacy? Can we talk? Do you need to go into a separate room? That kind of thing. And this is even more important when I talk to my teenage patients. And so sometimes what I've done with these teen visits is that I will conclude a video visit with the whole family, with the parent and the child. And then with their permission, I will actually call the teenager on the phone. And then I'll make sure that they don't have me on speakerphone, and I'll ask them to go into a separate room or something, and then we'll ask those more sensitive questions. And then I've also tried to ask like yes or no questions so that they don't have to do a lot of talking on the other end. So those are some of the ways that I've tried to ensure privacy during my telehealth visits. The physical exams, it's been amazing to me how much information I have been actually able to get on these telehealth video exams. I've had to do a few things, like maybe suggest to parents that, why don't you move the kid near a window so there's more lighting, so I can see exactly what that rash looks like, things like that. I've sometimes used parents as part of my physical exam. I've asked parents, if a kid has abdominal pain, can you just press on his belly to see if that elicits tenderness? And I've actually sometimes been able to complete even a throat exam. Of course, that has to involve a very cooperative kid who can open his mouth wide, excellent picture quality, and a great connection, but it has been possible every once in a while. I've always started my telehealth visits with the question of, how are things going? How's everyone in the family doing? And that's uncovered a whole lot of anxiety and stress that families are facing right now. And in the beginning, it was all about, oh my gosh, how do we deal with COVID? How do we protect our family? But more and more lately, people have been concerned about emotional stress and, issues, and how do we keep everyone from going crazy in our family, and questions regarding that. So it's really, I've been providing Reach Out and Read at our health center for almost 2 decades. But this crisis has really brought home to me how much Reach Out and Read's mission matters now more than ever. Reach Out and Read has never just been about promoting literacy, right? It's always been about promoting those joyful parent-child interactions and using books as a tool to do that. So using books as a tool to strengthen family bonds. And all of that is so important right now to help kids feel more loved and secure. So I try to talk to parents about all of that. And in fact, I've been trying to provide Reach Out and Read through most of my telehealth visits, even if they're not entirely well-child visits. So I talk to parents about how those loving routines, those routines of bedtime book sharing, can provide a sense of normalcy and provide a sense of comfort to kids during these stressful times. How books can help kids deal with complex emotions, and just how books and that book reading routine guarantees that kids have one-on-one time and attention from parents during that period of time, which we all know is so important for kids. So I talk briefly about all of that during my visits. I've also been able to actually model how to do that interactive back and forth dialogic reading that is so important during telehealth visits. And it took me a little bit of time and some trial and error to sort of figure out how to do this sort of, not without a lot of awkwardness. So one of the things that's worked for me is asking the kid, do you have any books at home that are your favorites? And then a lot of times the kid will actually run off and bring the book to show it to me during the visit. And then I'll have him hold it up to the camera and ask a few questions about it, open-ended questions, oh my gosh, that looks like a really cool book. What is that book about? What is your favorite part of the book? What happens in it? So lots of open-ended questions. And of course, there's going to be that kid who doesn't want to bring you a book, or, the books are not easily found. And then I've started like having like books with me that I, use for telehealth visits if that happens. So I say, can I show you one of my favorite books, and kind of hold up the book to the camera and then ask questions about that book. What do you think this book is about? What's going on here? I have to confess, I do not read a whole book. I just do not have the time to do that. But just modeling a little bit of that back and forth interactive reading for parents, I think is really helpful. And we'll see a little bit more of an example of that later on during this talk. And then coming to the third component of Reach Out and Read, which is, I used to give out books at my Reach Out and Read visits. Now I can't do that, but I have been actually sharing with my parents through a text messaging function in our telehealth platform, the link to the Reach Out and Read website, reachoutandread.org, where Reach Out and Read has really done an amazing job of putting together resources for families. So things like ebooks on coronavirus. There's a lot of videos of people, including pediatricians, children's book authors, reading books out aloud. So lots and lots of resources and lots of great ideas for parents in terms of activities they can be doing with their kids that are screen-free as well. So I tend to use that as a resource in lieu of actually giving out a book at the Well Child visit. And also, I wanted to mention that Reach Out and Read has come up with some great resources, not just for families, but also for providers. This is a great tip that, a tip sheet that Reach Out and Read has put out that talks about how you can prepare for telehealth visits. About the lighting and about using high quality cameras external cameras instead of relying on the laptop camera that you have. And also, it took me a little while to sort of really get used to this, to try to look towards the camera rather than looking too much at the family, the pictures that you're seeing on the screen, because that's when it looks like you're making eye contact. And the same thing in the opposite direction. So if a kid doesn't look like he's looking at you, don't automatically assume there's eye contact problems. It could be that he's looking at your picture on the screen. There's also a lot of great suggestions in this tip sheet about how to address stress and anxiety in families during this time. And a lot of that is reiterated in this great video that Reach Out and Read has put out.
Hey.
Hello.
Grace, will you just remind me how old everyone is? So that,
Evelyn will be 6 in August, so she's almost 6. And Andrew is 3.5, and Lydia is 20 months.
20 months, perfect. How's it going for you right now?
Well, it's been a little stressful having everybody home all the time. My husband is trying to work from home. When I'm working from home, and it's a struggle to keep the kids occupied and not, running in and trying to get any work done with everybody in the same home. Hey, here's Andrew.
This is really complicated right now, trying to keep everybody happy. Honestly, you have to cut yourself some slack. We all have to give ourselves a little bit of room to maneuver, not hold ourselves.
Thank you.
Andrew, you hold the book up so that I can see which one you have?
Can I tell you the name of it? Mouse Soup.
Mouse Soup. What's it about?
What's Mouse Soup about? You don't want to talk about it? Why not?
Does a mouse have a tail?
Yeah.
Does a dinosaur have a tail?
No. No.
Complicated, isn't it?
Do you have a tail? Yeah. No. That's good.
Nobody in the story has a tail except maybe the mouse.
Yeah, nobody in it. That the lady mouse has the tail.
Aha. And then let me go on and ask about Andrew. Is he sleeping okay these days?
Yeah, thankfully we haven't had any problems with that. As you can see, he's been a little bit more contrary since we've been stuck at home. So sometimes that's a struggle. The answer to everything is no matter what you're asking.
Everybody knows it's a strange time and tension comes out in different ways in kids. And I think we're all feeling some of the same things that he's expressing. So is there a particular time that you're finding you can read to them? Are you reading at bedtime?
Yeah, well, we always read at bedtime, and that's great. That's something that we've always done.
Would you be willing to read a little of Mouse Soup to Andrew and to me?
You read Mouse Soup?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Mouse Soup.
Oh no, said the bees.
So I'm gonna stop that right there. But you get the idea. It's on the Reach Out and Read website, and it's a great resource as well. So to just quickly recap, some of the things that I feel are working for me in terms of addressing, supporting families in these challenging times is to ask how they're doing, validating what they're going through, acknowledging that it's okay to relax standards a little bit. And I also try to give parents some, screens have become a part of our lives, whether we like it or not right now. And so just to give them, the permission to relax their usual rules a little bit, but to also provide some practical screen time strategies, like no screens before bedtime, suggesting other screen-free activities, and suggesting that parents can view some of the media with their kids and then talk about it. And more than anything, using screens as a way to promote social interactions, calling grandparents, having grandparents read to their kids over the phone, things like that. So to sort of bring it all together, while I still obviously prefer to have a one-on-one, face-to-face interaction with my patients in my office, I'm also really, recognizing the fact that telehealth has its own benefits. And I sort of have begun to see it as like one of those old-fashioned house calls that family docs used to make in the old days, the good old days. And it's really helped me support my families during this time of stress. So with that, that brings me to the end of my talk. And I'd like to see if there's any questions. So I do see a few questions in the chat box here. One from Karen that says, Dr. Ramachandran, do you think you will continue to use your new telehealth platform for certain families or types of visit even after the pandemic ends? So that is a really good question because absolutely, things like obesity visits, different, follow-ups for different other conditions. Definitely, I think that there is a place for telehealth visits going forward, even if the situation allows for in-person visits. And then I see another question there about, do you think being invited into your family's home through telehealth assists you in a greater understanding of family dynamics or parent-child caregiver interactions? Absolutely. There's definitely, that's definitely true, that it has given me a better understanding of everyone that's in the family and how they all interact together. I've even sometimes been able to see small things like there's no gates at the end of the on stairs and things like that. Now that's not interaction, but just family environment. I've been able to gently suggest that how to fix that and so on and so forth. So it's really given me a more global view of what's going on in my family's lives.
And with that, we are going to wrap things up. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramachandran, for sharing those insights with us and kind of sharing your expertise as you've navigated transitioning how you practice during these times. So I would invite anyone, if you do have additional questions, feel free. I'll be sending out a follow-up email, and I'll be sharing our survey that about the webinar, and also I'll share the video and the tip sheet that Dr. Ramachandran hinted to. Other than that, that wraps things up for the day. Thank you again, Dr. Ramachandran, and hope to see you all on our next webinar.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.